Hey guys, Mark here with Big Picture Ag, coming to you today with chapter 6 of the Read Your Crop Stories series. The title of this one is Pollination. I'm in the office today because as I left the house to go out to the field to shoot the intro, it started to sprinkle on me before I was able to get it all done. It was starting to rain, so I just decided to move it inside. Probably a lot of you have been seeing some of that. Different areas have been picking up rain on and off, depending on if you're in the dry slot or the wet slot. Maybe too much, maybe too little. But a lot of things going on there. We're going to talk about that a little bit with the GDD chart timing. The main focus is going to be, like I said, pollination. There's a lot of things happening in the field, and we want to talk about that a little bit. Also, we'll spend a little bit of time talking briefly about disease and a couple of other things. So stick around and let's jump into this. So we'll start out today looking at the GDD chart as usual. You can see as of today, we're at about 1,882 GDDs, which is about 1,000 away from our black layer target. So we're moving along pretty quickly. You can see that we've had some pretty warm days. Some days have been a little more heat than we'd like. Nighttime lows, while the last 3 days, 3 nights have been pretty warm. Even before that, you can see most of these are all in the high 60s, very much higher than we really kind of like. You can see we've had some cloudy weather, but along with that, we've had some rain. You can see in this particular spot here a few days ago, we picked up 3.6 inches on this particular field. That same rain event at my house, 10 miles away from this, we picked up 5.5 inches out of that. So, like many of you, these rains have been really spotty. They can be very intense from time to time, and it depends on where you're at as far as what you're getting. I think we're going to have to keep a lot of this in mind as we go into harvest and start seeing some yield variability. Some of this may be a factor we have to keep in mind as we do that. But again, being at 1,882 GDDs, we're about 1,000 away from black layer. Going through the month of August, if we keep this heat up, especially as intense as it is, we could be 30 days away from black layer on this hybrid, which is really probably a little faster than I'd like to see it get there. I think that could affect our kernel weight some, but we'll talk about that and a few other things as we get into a couple of other things here today. There's been a lot of conversation this year about the wrapped tassels. We've talked a lot about plant to plant variability that's been happening even after we had good emergence in some situations. There's a lot of things happening out here in our fields today, and some unusual things in my mind that we haven't seen typically. So kind of wanted to address a few of those. Obviously, I've seen some of those situations with the wrapped tassel where it struggles to get enough emergence out of the flag leaf to be able to shed the pollen effectively. A lot of times those ears are pushing silk several inches out of the end before the tassel in that particular plant is able to get out. We've also seen situations like this where it's just very delayed. And one of the things that has really caught my attention in some of these delayed plants, and we're going to look at it a little closer here in a second, but look at the tassel on this. The plant's not terribly small. It's not as big as the rest of the things next to it, but still not a horrible plant. But look at the tassel. So this is a close up of that particular tassel. You can see it just doesn't have much there. And when it came out, I'm not even sure how much pollen it even shed when it did finally come out. You can see just that, just not exciting. And typically, some of these plants are uh, all 10 days, almost 2 weeks behind, pushing the tassels and silks behind some of the very first ones in a couple of the fields I've been in. Not sure how that bodes for us going forward. So we'll pull the ear off of this and take a look at it next. And finally, this is the ear off of that plant. You can see we're probably not going to get full pollination at this point at all. Don't have a ton of kernels, even though some of the front end of it was able to probably pick up some pollen from some of the previous tasseling plants, but just a little bit scary on what we're seeing. And there's some of this in a lot of different fields that I've been in this year. It's not unique to anybody in particular, but just some things going on. And I would encourage everybody to get out in the field and take a look, see what you've got. See if you've got some spindly plants, how many of these you might have, how that might affect things. To speak a little bit more in that vein, I kind of wanted to bring this up. This is from a field I was in earlier this week that in looking at these three ears came from adjacent plants, just one, two, three. Wasn't a ton of difference in the plant size or anything necessarily from that point that made them stand out. But when I started looking at them, you could see, just look at the silks on the difference. We have this one that's got fully brown silk at this point, much more advanced than, say, the one right here that's been pushing a lot more silk. And then this little guy over here, he's got some brown silk on him, but he's still got a lot of green silk showing too. So I pulled these three ears, and like I say, this is right the order they were standing in the field. So here I went ahead and pulled the shucks off of these three ears, and you can see again kind of where we're at with those. I think I might have switched them around just a little bit. I think this might have been the center ear on the previous picture, but certainly some differences, even though it doesn't look like a lot of difference maybe in advancement in these particular three ears. Certainly some differences in kernel counts that are happening here. And here now you can see that we've got these guys cleaned off where you can get a really good picture of what we've got going for kernel counts and because success or maybe not such great success in regards to pollination. I did some quick kernel counts on this. The ear on the right is going to be an 18 by 42. That's a really nice ear. We'd like to keep them all like that. The middle ear is an 18 by 28. So certainly giving up some there. And the ear on the left is a 16 by 24. You can see that he had even a few more struggles with pollination as well. So again, it's going to depend on how much of this do we have out in the field. I was in another field earlier this week where we pulled ears like this, and the advancement of the kernel development was substantially different between the ears. Some of the ears were starting to pick up color while other ones were just starting to really strong milk side, and we found some ears that were just past blister stage a little bit. So a lot of plant to plant variability. And again, I can't pin it necessarily on specific hybrids or genetics or anything. I think weather's had an impact. There's a lot of conversations about what's really causing this season. I don't think we actually know just yet, but I think there's going to be some surprises out here when we go to the field with the combine this year. And I would encourage you, spend a little time in your fields now, get a feel for what you've got. Not everything looks as rosy. Some places it does, but there's a lot of parts of the country that I've been seeing some challenges a little bit. So really would encourage you again, get out in that field, take a look, see what you're seeing, might impact what you've got going. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up just a little bit right now because I don't have any other pictures in particular for it. As I've been out in the fields, a lot of conversation about what's the disease pressure, what are we seeing. To be honest, the fields I've been in, some of them were seeing some gray leaf spot, had some reports of tar spots showing up here and there. A lot of guys have already been pretty aggressive at getting the fungicide applications or pathogen protection products like our Instago product out there in the fields. So have not seen any instances thus far where disease is running rampant. But again, most everybody is either at the stage that they don't have a whole lot happening yet, or they've just done some of those applications. So we encourage you to stay in those fields. It's getting to that time of the year, I know, when a lot of us want to start thinking about taking vacations and getting some time off, and that's all well deserved. Hope you get the time to do that. Spend some time with your families because they've probably wondered where you've been a little bit for the past couple of months. But don't walk away from this crop just yet. There are some things that might be doable. If you've got some really good conditions, we might talk about some late season feeding opportunities if we can squeeze something in, or maybe you've got a little bit later planting dates. But um, again, there's still things that we're going to be learning as we go through the season, even though we may not be necessarily having as many things that we can do in those fields impact where the final yield lands. We will take a minute here to take a look at some soybeans just a little bit. I've been in a lot of bean fields as well as corn, and most of us seem a little more excited about our soybeans. They've gotten some size after what seemed to be a little bit of a rocky start, but we all know soybeans sometimes can recover or almost take advantage sometimes of some challenging things. So a lot of the plants we've been looking at look really strong. I've been finding a lot of plants with 4, 5, 6, even 7. I think I found one plant a week ago with 8 branching nodes on it. And boy, that's exciting when you start adding up how many pods those extra branches can form. And true to nature for myself, I never look just above the ground. I always want to look at what's going on underground. And a lot of the plants we've been digging got a lot of good nodulation happening. Some of them are even much more aggressive even than this plant. But all in all, this is still good. A lot of the plants, when we're digging them up, have got nodules out on the roots extending inches away from the plant. So I think we've got a lot of things setting up well in the soybeans. Obviously, we've got a little bit more time on them, but at this point, it does appear that we could have a pretty good scenario setting up, provided the weather doesn't get too rough on us, that we can maintain a lot of these pods that we're setting and then go ahead and fill those as we go through the season. So that'll be it for July the 21st, 2025. We've been in a lot of fields the last 2 weeks. We'll continue to watch those as they develop and go into the end of the season and just kind of get a feel for right now where we're at. Going into the late season, there's going to be a lot of interesting things as we get into the field and process and start to understand some of the impacts that different weather events could have had in different areas. So I'm excited for the things that we're going to be able to learn this year, because we've got different scenarios in different parts of the region that are really going to lend some insight. So I really hope you'll stick around with us, continue on through the season in the series, and even keep in mind we're going to have a meeting this winter. We're going to spend time sharing a lot of the information of the things that we've seen, how we feel it impacted it, how we might have been able to change some of those things. So, anyway, that's a wrap for today. Appreciate you sticking around for Chapter 6 of the Big Picture Ag Read Your Crop Stories series, Oh, Pollination. So, encourage you one more time, get out in those fields, take a look at what you've got happening, see what you can see. If you want to give me a call and have me stop by as we get toward the end of the season, start putting that bug in my ear that you'd like for me to get out in the fields with you and take a look and see if we can make some assessments together. Until the next time, just wish you that you'll be safe. Find a little time to do some things with the family, but don't give up completely yet, especially soybeans. We might have some opportunities to do some things there. So if you feel like you've got some good looking soybeans, give me a shout. We might want to do some additional things in those this season. But until later, take care.